of the Mindspeak episode. We have new speakers, new subjects every day to make this lockdown more informative and a mind changer. Today, we have Prasad Kapre, who's going to speak to the fashion czar, Tarun Tahiliani. Tarun has an amazing profile many may not be aware of. He has a degree in management from the Wharton School of Business and associate degree from the Fashion Institute of New York. After returning from US, he saw the vast potential in the fine clothing and couture industry that was evolving in the country. In 1987, he opened the doors to India's first multi-designer boutique, Ansam, which was a sensation in Mumbai. And I'm all for it because I live in Mumbai. India Modern was the guiding philosophy of Tarun Tahiliani's studio, founded in 1995. The studio creates a fusion of Indian craftsmanship, fine textiles with contemporary international chic. Tarun has mastered the art of making the best in couture, fashion, jewelry, homes, and even carpets. When Tarun launched his grand boutique in Jan 2017 in New Delhi at Kutab Gardens, on completion of this boutique, Tarun said, "When you walk into my space, I want you to know you're entering my mind." I think that was a great statement and makes us uh, open up our minds and hearts. His garments are today sold in New York, London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Dubai, and across India. Tarun Tahiliani is probably India's most established designer in terms of infrastructure, distribution. Lo and behold, friends, hold your breath still, and uh, we see Prasad take Tarun on a journey to see how fashion and jewelry can blend well, create new horizons and new ideas for us who only dwell in jewelry. We will have a question and answer at the end of the session. Kindly keep your mobiles and laptops on a video off mode for a better clarity for sound and picture. I now request Prasad to take over.
Thank you, Ashokji, and good afternoon and welcome, Tarun, to this.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes. Tarun, just for your sake and for the audience sake, I have divided this section, this whole conversation in primarily two different sections. The first one is I want to draw a lot of parallel between fashion and jewelry. And there is a lot there is common between the two industries and how we can learn from each other, especially, the fact of the matter is that both fashion and jewelry perhaps started 5,000 years ago, so they all started together, but fashion, of course, has grown by leaps and bounds, and especially in the last 30 years. So, which is something interesting. So I want to draw a parallel that how and what interesting points can we pick up from the fashion industry. And second is, if and when we want to collaborate with the fashion industry, how can we do it together? And how can we both prosper together? So these are the two basic sections.
Prasad, can you speak a little louder?
To anything else? One of the very interesting.
Prasad, can you speak a little louder, or speaker to be near to your voice?
Is it any better?
Better.
Yes, it is better.
Okay. So, as I was saying that since we are drawing the parallel, but before I get into any of those questions, one of the very interesting questions which the audience have already sent me is, how did you create your label, Tarun Tahiliani? And what is the mantra behind the success of this label, and how do you sustain it?
Well, it's always been easy with the benefit of hindsight. It's a lot of hard work. And the truth is, actually, only now that I'm 25, 30 years on, am I sitting and thinking, what do we need to do strategically? Where's the market? At the time we started, it was very nascent industry, and people thought we were crazy. I remember Pearl Padamsi, the director, saying, "You'll be coming back like a church mouse in 6 months, because there's no way this concept can work." And it didn't actually work in the beginning. It took time, but we were passionate and we had seen what happened in the world. And we knew, as being young 20-year-olds ourselves, mid-20s, that there was a change. Our generation did not necessarily want to look like their mothers and fathers. They had traveled the world. They were a little more open to contemporary global fashion, which also then they wanted with their Indian fashion, right? You can't be Western and then suddenly go back into looking 30 years old. You understand fit. You understand what a jacket. So that was the guiding principle behind the starting of Ensemble. We saw many beautiful things also, which I found shocking at that time, that were made in India but were only sold abroad. So you'd find beautifully made Indian things in London and Tokyo and New York. And this wasn't available. And they'd say, well, it's only for export. And I'd say 45 years after independence, you're still standing there and giving your best product to the white man. And we Indians, if you remember, used to shop on fashion streets where all export rejects used to sell. Right. And even there was a textile industry, so there were beautiful stores for saris. Right. Besides that, exhibitions and sales happened. Like I talk about Bombay, all over Breach Candy. And women would rush in and try things over their clothes. You had to try a shalwar kameez on a shalwar kameez. Right. Men mostly got their clothes tailored, and it depended on the fit of whoever was tailoring it for you. So we were in a transition anyway from a textile industry, which is Indians' particular background, to now a tailored, more Western, more contemporary, more global approach. Okay. And so that was one thing. We started the store, and it took a long time to learn. I was very complex because I didn't know what a placket was. I didn't know how to fit something, and people assumed that I knew it. And very often they'd ask me something, and I just have to be vague because I didn't know. I had no idea what they were talking about. So I decided to go and study because I felt that if you really wanted to know something, then you got to know technically what to do. You couldn't be explaining it to Indian Master G. So I went back to FIT and I studied for the year, which was very intense. And in 95, I moved back and decided to be a designer full time. Okay. So I think there were many things that, were happening because there was this we were moving back away from socialism. India had opened up. And a lot of communities, particularly the diamond merchants, the good jewelers, all your Palan Puris used to come back. And they used to wear the most beautiful things at weddings. That's what really gave this Indian fashion a big fillip. They wanted beautiful embroideries. It started going back to what they thought costumes of royal India were, because all this patronage had been lost under socialism. The standards had come down. You had to pretend. I mean, things were just it was not the Indian exuberance and spirit that developed. So I think once people saw that there was patronage, designers started pushing themselves further, embroidery, learning cut, doing novel things. Right. And also it was very new for India. Like we're one of the greatest jewelry manufacturers and most incredible tradition. But this form of fashion was new. And so we were pushed by a backwind or a tailwind, which came in the form of press. BBC used to come down regularly. There was excitement. If you were a jeweler who were doing beautiful things, well, you were one more jeweler. But right. We were just lucky. Sometimes you're at the right place at the right time. Okay. And basically, this was a new breeze. It was enthusiastic. It's very visual. It's right. Extremely visual. So if you see a model on a ramp or someone beautifully dressed, you can't take your eyes off them. I mean, it's seductive. Right. And it was nice to see things that fit beautifully. And a new language was being developed, Mm-hmm. So all this was very exciting. When I think about jewelry, although we had a wonderful export market, there was beautiful things being done here in Jarao. I felt that, a lot of jewelers, people would go to them and open a book and say, make me this Cartier, make me this, make me that. So while the workmanship was superb, that identity was not lost. Sometimes go to 20 jewelers and the designs all look the same, Correct. Or even now designers doing jewelry, they look like things I've seen for 20 years.
But even in jewelry industry, we find the same, I mean, it's very difficult to create a distinct identity.
Well, and when you do, then it's also so easy to copy, that people are copying you and that takes away the value. Unless you stay, and of course, this is an extreme example, but, we've been friends for a long time and I've been seeing his work from the beginning when it was stainless steel. Someone like Viren Bhagat, who's so specific, cuts right. every stone, and for an identity has become a master. And it's so private, and it's so, what's the word I use? It's so precious that you can't even get to see it normally. And therefore it's difficult to copy. And so, it has kept, it's extremely exclusive and it has a very strong look. Yes. But in general, with a lot of jewelers, and now they're younger jewelry designers, but a lot of jewelers, as I saw them, had wonderful workshops, but they did a bit of everything. You want a Gerard, they give you Gerard. You want diamonds, they give you diamonds. They have gold section. They have vintage Victorian sections. So it became, almost within a brand, it was like a multi-brand.
Okay.
And I think there's been no dearth of jewelers. I mean, there's a jeweler. Indians love jewelry. And let me tell you, Indians love jewelry. It will spend more on jewelry than on clothes. Back then, I was telling you the story of how in the 90s, when somebody would come to do a bridal, they'd bring their jewelry. The mother would bring, or the grandmother, and say, this is what she's going to wear. And we need to find something to match with this.
Right.
Today, when they come, I'll say, do you know what your jewelry? Oh, forget the jewelry. Outfit's more important. Wo zyada dikhta hai. The girls are more interested in the jewelry, in the clothes. Then we'll find the jewelry. So in a way, clothing. I mean, look, when you get a bridal, whatever you spend, chances are most people aren't going to use it again. But the jewelry has an intrinsic value, and I presume what you buy for your wedding will be one of the most special sets that you own. You know, at least you might go on to buy anything else, and so that is also an investment. But it's turned, they want the stuff fashion. They feel that people are going to notice their clothing much more, which is true. And that has happened in the last 30 years. And I think one of the reasons fashion has become so visible because of the rise of fast fashion, as opposed to jewelry, which has stayed fine and precious.
But I'll just come to that, Tarun, because I know we spoke about that yesterday. But just one thing which I wanted to know is, what is that mantra of your success? Is it the distinct, designs, or is there?
Well, I think it's a bit of everything. One is you have to stay insecure because you keep pushing yourself. So even in this lockdown, I don't know what budgets you're going to have. I'm sitting here working every day because I'm so scared what's going to happen after this that I'm pushing myself to be better. So insecurity always goes a long way. You have to keep finding the next thing. I think also you have to keep pushing. You know, I think that for people who become designers and who develop a point of view, you have to, it's not just a business. I mean, yes, I have to run a business, but I go to work driven by other considerations. And the most important thing is to create something new, to have this thing. I have people who are constantly critical of me, so they're pushing me. And you're pushing yourself against your competition or whoever you perceive to be your competition. And then what your level of engagement is. So I'm always looking for, in fact, a lot of our embroideries are taken from jewelry because I find, we were not such a resham country. Our embroideries were jewel-like. And then there were many different techniques. So I keep pushing myself. You have to keep contemporizing. You have to understand what people are looking for. As people are wearing more Western clothing, they want that fit. So we're trying to put that into our clothes all the time. We do all our fittings on fit models, like, they do in France or America, the ateliers. We've taken the best of this and we're trying to put in the best of this.
Okay, Tarun, a couple of requests. One is, if you can speak in Hindi, because a lot of people have been asking me whether we can switch over to Hindi.
Okay, well, I'll have to speak a little less then. But
नहीं चलेगा, लेकिन as long as लोगों को समझ आए,
थोड़ा बहुत कोशिश करेंगे. हाँ.
Mix करिए, हाँ.
Yes, mix कर लीजिए तो चलेगा.
ठीक है.
जो मेरा अगला सवाल है, जो मैं समझना चाहता हूँ कि how do you define fashion?
Fashion is a very broad term. It's a very big term.
Yeah.
कोई एक definition नहीं है. अलग-अलग type के fashion होते हैं. High fashion होता है, bridal fashion होता है, हर रोज का फैशन होता है, और ये फास्ट फैशन जो शुरू हुआ पूरी दुनिया में, ये सब बड़े ब्रांड्स जो आए, ज़ारा और मैंगो, एंड आई सपोज इनके इक्विवेलेंट यहाँ व्हाट वुड इट बी, जो ऋतु कुमार लेबल बना रही है, द लोअर ब्रांड्स, और जो आदित्य बिरला ग्रुप के, दे डू सम, एलन सोली में भी. सो ये फास्ट फैशन दैट पीपल बाय and they keep turning, ये मतलब ये आता है जाता है, ये एक वेस्टर्न कंस्ट्रक्ट है कि यहाँ पर फैशन बहुत बदलते रहेंगे. तो आज इस साल हम बेल बॉटम पहनेंगे, उसके बाद हम ड्रेन पाइप, और ये इन्होंने तरीका बनाया ज्यादा सेल करने के लिए. डिपार्टमेंट स्टोर, it's a big conspiracy together. One thing keeps the wheels running of the other. हमारे जो इंडियन फैशन में हुआ था कुछ बदलता नहीं था, ये अभी नई बात है. क्योंकि you could wear your grandfather's धोती, कोई अपने नानी की लहंगा या साड़ी पहन सकते हैं. Even today, maybe you'll alter a bit.
Correct.
विलायत में it was not like this. हमारे 100 साल से एक ही फैशन था, textile, embroidery. The finesse of what was done to the textile.
Right.
Then when the Islamic people came in, थोड़ा ज़्यादा वो शरारा, कलीदार, ये सब शुरू हुआ. Before that was mostly textiles with the Hindus. Then the British came in और अंग्रेजों ने tailoring, jackets वो सब ये लाया. It wasn't there before. और अभी now it's getting a global feel.
Right.
So fashion is many different things. Like jewelry, I keep telling you, वहाँ पर you have accessorized at the airport. They think that's jewelry, but that's fast fashion, cheap, just costume jewelry. You have fine for jewelry. और कुछ ऐसे brands हैं विलायत में, जैसे Chanel, वो costume jewelry बनाते हैं, just they call it, it's a costume jewelry line.
Right.
And then they do fine jewelry or fine bijou. वो उसी brand से वो असली diamonds वगैरह, they have their own boutiques, in Paris and in some of the other places. So brands do everything. There's fast fashion, which is like wear and keep changing and mix and match. And then there's this serious.
So मतलब fast fashion में जो fashion jewelry आएगी, and whereas couture side पे perhaps हमारी fine jewelry आएगी, right?
बिल्कुल, क्योंकि मतलब fast fashion के साथ you can wear real jewelry, पर ज़्यादातर fashion jewelry पहनते हैं और उसमें क्या है कि belts में है, handbag के strap में, अब handbags 2-2, 3-3, 5-5 लाख के एक handbag जाता है, जिसका कोई कीमती नहीं है, it's half the value the moment you walk into the shop.
Sure.
But वो अभी fashion में है. So दोबारा वो लोग सोचते कि दूर से मेरा हैंडबैग देखेगा, उस पे एक लोगो है. अगर वो नाइस पेयर ऑफ इयररिंग्स किसी को पता नहीं चलेगा. और प्रॉब्लम ये एक और चीज है फैशन ज्वेलरी में कि यार इतने सारे मटेरियल्स हैं, there's so many materials you can buy, cubic zircon, उसका सेटिंग सही करो, you can't tell the difference with real diamonds.
True.
You get beautiful fake jewelry. Italians make the most amazing fake jewelry, American. और वहाँ का फैशन हो गया कि मतलब कॉस्ट्यूम ज्वेलरी भी बहुत it can be for thousands of dollars and it's considered fine. Style आ गया है. वहाँ पर इतना they don't value कि इसका कीमत क्या है. So they take the make, the design. Those are different things.
Right. Tarun, I mean, everything starts with primarily कि एक प्लानिंग हमें करनी पड़ती है और हमने हमेशा देखा है कि फैशन इंडस्ट्री में perhaps आज आप ऑलरेडी 2021 का समर कलेक्शन शायद आप प्लान कर रहे हो, your planning is almost 12 months in advance, जो नॉर्मली हम ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री में नहीं देखते हैं. तो व्हाट इज द प्रोसेस बिहाइंड इट, मतलब कितनी ज्यादा प्लानिंग होती है?
Well,
और इसमें कंज्यूमर रिसर्च कितना होता है?
So रिसर्च हमारे कुछ टीम्स होते हैं जो सिर्फ रिसर्च करते हैं. So जैसे प्रिंट्स डेवलपमेंट, नए फैब्रिक्स, क्या मोटिव्स इस्तेमाल करेंगे या क्या थीम रहेगा.
Right.
हम as Indian designers हम 4-5 महीने पहले शुरू करते हैं क्योंकि हमारे प्रोडक्शन इतने बड़े नहीं है. पर विलायत में जब ये like the big brands like Chanel या Calvin Klein, they do thousands of millions of pieces, या वो they work 1 year in advance because they have to produce the sample 6 months in advance. वो orders लिखते हैं. तो जैसे अभी मार्च में उन्होंने सब fall winter का collection दिखा है. They have to be ready by Feb for costing. So the work has to start last year November, December, ताकि वो आज February में तैयार हो, so that they can ship the stores in September or August. That's the cycle.
Okay.
But more and more, the cycles are getting shorter. So Zara का success ये है कि वो shows देखेंगे मार्च में और वो सिर्फ कॉपी करते हैं. 4 हफ्ते में वो मतलब fabrics को मतलब they have standardized fabrics, उसको नया फैशन करके they'll put into the shop. Designers के पहले जिन्होंने ये डिजाइन किया है उनके पहले ज़ारा अंदर लगाएगा. That's why it's one of the biggest clothing companies in the world.
ये जो ट्रेंड्स आते हैं वो किस तरह से आते हैं, क्योंकि is there a international body which decides the trends या हर कंट्री और हर ब्रांड अपने ट्रेंड्स खुद देखता है?
Well,
दूसरा ये जो ट्रेंड्स के बाद इसको जो पूरा आपको एक थीम देके you introduce at least 5 or 6 themes in a year or even more. How does that work?
Well, you see, the thing is, originally every country had their own trends. अब जैसे दुनिया is becoming more and more global, so the Indian kids are looking at American TV every day. So they might be influenced by a young singer, this new teen sensation. Or, it might be when David Beckham was big, they were influenced by soccer a lot.
Right.
There are different people who respond to different things. So there are always multiple trends going on.
Okay.
So if in Valentino's a very successful designer and they do beautiful things, because that stuff is very much in fashion, it might set a trend for a while. There are different things that set trends. No, there are many trends that go on at one time. Some people like monochromatic. There's the Japanese style of trends. There's maximalist. So today's world, there are many trends that run at once, and designers decide what they want to do or what they're, I like jewelry, I like fine colors, so I'm a little more maximalist. So I'll always be on that trend. And within that, I try and set my own trends as I go along without being conscious. If things catch on popular imagination, then that becomes a trend. But that might work in India. It might not work abroad. I might see a beautiful jacket at a museum, at the Metropolitan Museum, in the show on Gods and Angels. There's all the Byzantine motifs, and Dolce Gabbana's done a beautiful jewel jacket, and we'll come back and do our own version based on something in Ajanta Ellora, and that might become a trend there. So it's a constant wheel, it's a cycle. There are also companies that put out trends and say that next year green will be the color based on research. So so the shoe company is doing green, the bag is doing green. So then when they buy clothes, they can buy things up and down. But I think ab jo hua hai, but we're in the middle of a COVID crisis or itna retail crash. And ye naya consciousness jo aa raha hai ki it has just become too much. We're all running, buying, shopping, selling, dumping. 100 billion pieces of clothing are getting dumped. It's not sustainable. We're all paying the price. So I think now everyone's talking about a new way of going back to an old-fashioned way of buying less, but buying more quality, not defining yourself by wearing new things every day, at least which a lot of women do. Men don't shop like that. And, being more conscious of what you buy and buying better.
Okay, but the fact is, every designer usually ends up having maybe, at least 6 collections or even more. जो jewelry industry में बहुत rarely होता है. हमारे अगर साल में 2 collections भी आ गए नए, तो we feel very good about it. Whereas fashion में बहुत ज्यादा आते हैं. तो ये आप कैसे manage करते हैं? And इसकी क्या जरूरत पड़ती है?
ये इसकी जरूरत सिर्फ ये है कि थोड़ा newness बनाने के लिए 2 किस्म के fashion company होते हैं. अब let's say take Chanel, because everybody knows it. They do tweed jackets.
Right.
If they're the same tweed jacket, after 3 years, women say, why do I need to buy it? But if I say, okay, today the theme is the moon and tomorrow is this, I put the buttons, change the color, you create newness. Thoda excitement ke liye, okay? That's what fashion is. What's the new thing, okay? But also, it's also fuels your creativity. Ye nahi hai ki is saal ka piece, you can mix the jacket from today with jeans from 3 years back. It's not that they're all in isolation.
Right.
In India, people look forward to new things because now there are young girls who dress very differently. There are older women who dress differently. There's a lot of fashion for weddings because that's when we celebrate India, and there are different kinds of fashion for all the different events. So there's a lot of things going on at any different time. There are many different tastes. There are many different aesthetics. And this all exists in this universe. I think with jewelry, with the really fine jewelers, you have to have a certain stone. Or in the designs, I presume, are made around beautiful stones or special things that you collect and then you design around it. A suite of emeralds, you put whatever it is.
Right.
It's not so possible to keep duplicating. In fashion, if you want 1,000 pieces, you can make 1,000 pieces. Agar aapko 5,000, you want 500,000 pieces, you can make 500,000. Maybe in jewelry, you can only do that with a small ring, but not with a big necklace. That's one. I think it would be really useful, actually, in today's world because of social media and planning, that when, say, the designers are designing the new collection, July, August mein jo hota hai bridal ke liye, agar pehle se tie-up hota, you have a tie-up with great jewelers, and that you start work 6 months in advance. So when you produce this look, you produce the jewelry, the whole ensemble, people love that. People are so confused with so much choice.
Right.
They want to be told कि इसके साथ ये जाएगा, ये option है, not to be forced, but just to be suggested. And when you shoot it together, you say, look how beautiful this looks. They love it, right? Because it makes it. People are also confused. There's too much choice. There's too much going on today, and people are busy. There's too much social media. Everyone's working. So I think if people were to tie up what the department store, ये पहले होता था विलायत में, because department store सबसे main avenue distribution के लिए था. जब तक ये 10-15 साल में, now it's going online and all, but still the department store, if you go to London, still Harvey Nichols or Harrods are very important in this whole chain. Selfridges, so they would work 6-8 months in advance and they would make things coordinate. So जब वो department store में नया collection डालते, you'll find matching shoes. It always helps everybody because people, then have it's edited for them. In India, everybody does their own thing. So there's no cohesion. There's no coordination. Actually, I find us, even within the fashion designers, one of the worst communities at working advanced. Milan Fashion Week is so strong because every Italian shows there.
Right.
French Fashion Week was everywhere. In India, there'll be 10 fashion weeks, there'll be 10 this. Finally, it dissipates everything. Press ko bhi fatigue ho jata hai. Kis mein jaye? I mean, 5 years back, people used to say, another fashion week, because they don't understand.
Right.
So by not working together, we hurt ourselves. Also, I think another problem in India is there are no barriers to entry. So anyone can copy. They make cheap copies. There's no body to, protect IPR. So people are scared. And when I go into the jewelry fairs, like that big thing that happens in Goregaon, I can't even walk through. I'm dazed, and there's a lot of beautiful stuff there, a lot of amazing things. But there's no storytelling, there's no emotion. It just becomes product.
Correct.
What we have to learn.
My next question was to understand the consumer motivation and what is that story, because finally we are selling a story more than a product, both in fashion as well as in jewelry. So, कैसे ये किया जा सकता है?
So, अगर आप सिर्फ product producing तो आप commoditize कर रहे हैं, then you have to sell on price. कि ये आपको 50 में दे रहा है, मैं आपको 52 में दे, it becomes price. In fashion, in anything fine, and there are many beautiful things. Because हमारा कारीगरी in India is outstanding. I mean, I think we're some of the best craftsmen in the world.
Right.
But what's the story behind it? Everyone now, or is zamane mein, iske baad, is going to be even more important because everyone is looking. Everything is full. The people are buying jewelry, don't need another piece of jewelry. They don't need another piece of clothing. There'll be new people in the market, but everyone has enough. They have to buy into something authentic, into something that either moves them emotionally or feels like, wow, it's really some great artist's work, or I'm helping a whole community. Many different reasons why people buy, right? It will also be that I want to look beautiful, nothing wrong with that. Or it could even be that I want to wear the biggest necklace in the room. I want to wear there are many different emotions. But when they do that, that storytelling, it has to be a little slow. So with this fashion, it's a little bigger. You can do it. You tell the story on the ramp. You tell it on Instagram. कई मतलब outlets है अपने store windows में बनाते हो. But when you do just jewelry, because the product's not smaller, it's a little more difficult for any product to on its own command that thing, So let's say Bulgari will still put hundreds of photographs of Elizabeth Taylor wearing their stuff because that was the big thing, that she wore it and she bought it.
Right.
So everyone has to find their story. The best story, of course, is that it's beautiful design and what drives it.
Right.
It could be about the stones. It could be the craftsman. It's hard to make up a story if you don't have a story. Then people hire PR companies, but people are not fools today. So they want an authentic story. Whatever it is that drives you, that's your story. There's no right or wrong, and it'll work for some and it won't work for some, and that's fine.
Okay. One thing which I have noticed is most of the designers, the first thing that they do is try and go global. And which again, we don't find this trend in jewelry industry. There are very few global brands, if you really see. As against that, I mean, other than Pandora or some of the other bigger names. But in fashion, we immediately find that people want to go global.
They might want to go global.
Behind that?
Well, they might want to go global, but let me tell you, your jewelry industry is way bigger than all the designers put together. Don't knock it.
Fantastic.
You're produced from the top brands. I know, from Harry Winston to Fred Siegel, everyone's getting stuff made by all the top jewelers here.
Yeah.
You'll do amazing diamond exports. You'll do semi-precious stones. There's a lot of fast fashion out of India, but the designer is minuscule compared to what you jewelers do. So please don't knock yourself. You're in a different league, okay? Honestly, there's a lot of hype around the designer and fashion, but you're way bigger.
Okay.
I think to go global, how many Indian designers have gone global? We're mostly selling to the Indian customer abroad. It's not that we're selling to the global, or we'll do little collaborations. That's not called being called global. Global is like a Ralph Lauren, who everybody buys across the world. No one is close to that from here at all.
Right.
I think we Indian designers have to go global to the Desis, to the subcontinental people, and maybe a bit to the Middle East. it's too big a market. We only can do anything once we're strong here. You jewelers have focused on being suppliers, maybe polished stones, setting. Now, when you want to create your own brand, then it's a different story, right? So again, my friend Viren is very small, but he has a very top niche. He's considered one of the top jewelers in the world. And it is beautiful what he does. It's exquisite. And it's for people with a certain iron budget. I'm sure there are many people who can find their own way along the way. I think it's okay not to be global. I think you go become national at least. That national is a huge market. I mean, look at what companies like Tanish do. So I think this mentality that we have to go global, forget it. My whole strategy now is to, my name is known by every Indian. Should I sell to them or run into new markets and break my head? And I also understand what the need is. Italian taste is different. Greek taste is different. Americans might like solitaires, but their taste might be different. We understand who we are. So I think the best design happens when you design for a lifestyle. So going back to your question, ki aapka story kya hai? I was one of the first designers who showed in Milan. It was great. Then we came to winter. We didn't have the fabrics. I didn't know what they did. How much could I design sitting in Delhi? But I know, even if you're sitting in Bombay, koi Coimbatore mein baitha hai, Chennai mein, ki December mein kya hoga, January, I know the lifestyle, what would we need? Design has to come out of a need. And it has to be matched with an aesthetic, and then it has to be matched with workmanship, and then you have to be at the right price, and there are many factors in it. But to start with, if I don't understand who my customer is, how am I going to, and today, Prasad, as never before, the customer is the most important thing. We have to all listen. Those days are gone where you had a name and people were lined up at the door. There's too much competition and people do things fantastically.
True.
And at every level in anything. Look at our service in India, in hotels, in airlines. We used to fly for 30,000 rupees. Now you get a seat for 4,000 rupees. Always on time, efficient, clean. That's the nature of the world.
Right.
So we really have to start. I always say start with, you know, even today I'm designing this collection. और मैं यहाँ सोच रहा हूँ कि इस पैंडेमिक के बाद किस तरह के कपड़े पहनेंगे. मेरे हिसाब से थोड़ा लाइट पहनेंगे. ये हजारों लोगों की शादी नहीं अलाउ होगा एक साल के लिए. So even the clothes should be lighter, but they'll be fine. खूबसूरत चीज तो खरीदेंगे. अभी से मैं उनको समझाऊंगा कि लहंगे के साथ 3 पीस कैसे बना सकते हो. इसके साथ शर्ट पहनो, इसके साथ चोली के साथ भी make your sari. Anticipate needs because it helps us to connect, and when you connect, then you have a customer base.
Okay. As I said, when you have 6 to 7 new collections coming in a year, and in fact some brands do maybe every month, so they come out with 12 different themes. What it requires is efficiency in your supply chain. तो आपका जो product development period है, वो how quickly can you turn around? कितनी जल्दी आपको ये बना सकते हैं? क्योंकि में time लगता है.
So you must understand, it's not कि हम पूरा product बदल रहे हैं. ऐसा, think of it this way, that we're changing. I mean, the lehenga is a lehenga, but maybe one day I have a Byzantine theme. Agle baar it's Mughal. Third day it's Tanjore. So a lot of it is decorative. Uske upar jo hum laga rahe hain. Anguthi. Today you might be doing pearls. Tomorrow you might be doing emerald with pearls.
Right.
So that supply chain is there. It's not as if koi bilkul naya technique ya technology. It's not like in tech.
True.
We're doing clothes. We're doing things. We're doing suits. Fabric suppliers दिखाते रहते हैं. Embroidery swatches दिखाते रहते हैं. कुछ patterns वही इस्तेमाल होते हैं. कुछ नए बनते हैं for newness. Or we keep watching the market and trying to connect and anticipate people's needs and lead them by evolution, not by revolution. अगर आप Gucci को देखो, it's the most successful brand right now. When that last director's fired, in 5 days, उन्होंने menswear, women's wear, men, he put them on the menswear, on the men, and the men. Now today, in today's world, there are a lot of men who wear anything. So he just hit the trend at the right time, by luck. And now it's like a mad show. But if you look at the pieces, they all look like old things, but they're just put in a new way. A lot of fashion today is remixing. It's not like the old days where women and men sat and spent hours dressing up. A bride will do that. Wo zamana nikal gaya. People don't have time. So much of it is just communicating an idea, showing it in a new way. I mean, if I see a classic, beautiful design of a necklace, it's beautiful even today. I mean, some of the things in the Nizam's book or in all the old jewelry collections, whether European or Indian.
Right.
Is it? But if you say it's done in 1930, it might be boring. But if you show it in a new way, on a little black dress, or as a woman would wear it today with messy hair and all, it looks new. It's not that everything has to change.
Right.
You have to communicate.
But normally
It's so
time
much-
period kitna lagta hai from your planning stage to actually the product being ready? How large is that cycle?
Sampling में 3-4-5 महीने लगते हैं samples तैयार करने के लिए.
Okay.
Because we're also doing other things, not कि ये day and night कर रहे हैं. और उसके बाद orders place करने के बाद जब सब stores आएंगे तो 3.5 months to get it shipped to the stores.
So the whole cycle is 6 to 8 months by the time it reaches store.
Yeah. And abroad तो 1 साल का cycle है.
Wow.
Our quantities are smaller and we do everything in-house in our own factories. अगर हमको बाहर outsource production देना था तो हमको और भी time देना पड़ेगा. Or like Europe shuts in August, so the shipments have to go in July. All this happens.
तो मतलब ये पूरी साइकिल अगर आपको मतलब अगर 6 न्यू कलेक्शन भी पूरे साल में इंट्रोड्यूस करने हैं, so you have to plan maybe 12 to 18 months in advance.
Well, I'd say about 12 months because some things will flow over. Or ये कुछ best selling styles, so we'll do it in a new color. So it's not that every piece is new, right?
Okay.
You'll take the umbrella of the collection and give it a total freshness could be from a pattern or color palette, but you'll also do things that basically you buy your classics. How you go back to a store and whatever you want the same thing, at least with men. You want that same thing before. So it's a bit of both, always.
Okay. So coming to the distribution part of it, now there are, mono-brand stores, multi-brand stores, there is online, there are departmental stores. Which one really works well and how do you decide how you want to go about?
Well, for us, because we're at a very high level of fashion and it's very fit specific, or you can also order, it always works best for us हमारे लिए in our own stores because you create your universe.
Right.
जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, you come into Delhi here now it's the beginning. You come into our mind, so you see the jalis, the whole atmosphere, the fragrance in the store. You get immersed in a world. Right. So that always works the best, as opposed to going into a department store. But we don't have department stores that carry designers in India. But let's say if you go to the big multi-brand boutiques like an Ensemble or an Ogan or whatever, well, they'll have many different designers pieces there. So you don't create that whole cohesive world. That has its own charm. And there are a lot of people who like to go there to shop because they get more variety and choice. Right. So that's fine too. But with a brand like ours, we do better in our own stores.
But do you think there is a scope?
Sorry?
Do you think there is a scope for jewelry to have a multi-brand outlet? I mean, usually you may have Tanishq as just one store, but can there be a multi-brand outlet which stocks Tanishq, which stocks, maybe Kalyan, which stocks pieces of Malabar? I mean,
so the idea of a multi-brand store normally abroad is that somebody's eye is curating for a certain kind of customer. It's not trying to be everything to everybody. So if you walk into Bergdorf Goodman, you will find a lot of beautiful jewelry on the ground floor, but coordinated by that Linda lady or whoever, they're choosing what's in that store for their customer. It's really about knowing your customer. Just putting 20 brands into a store, I don't think that today works. It worked at one point, but now things have got much more specialized. There's much more social media engagement. Before people come shopping, they're looking at things. They have an idea what they want. So part of it is just the tactile thing. I mean, it works for very expensive watches. Why would it not work for jewelry? Now, the problem is who's going to make that investment? That's the problem I see with jewelry. If it's your jewelry, you'll make the investment. But are you going to give your multi-million-dollar necklaces and put them in someone else's store? You'd rather keep them with yourself. So up to a point, I think it works. That's why in all these department stores, you have very nice accessories and jewelry department. But the really fine jewelry will normally be done by the jeweler himself or the brand.
Right.
Or there are some brands that they'll sell it under their name. Because I know a lot of Indian, the diamond manufacturers manufacture for a lot of these top brands. So obviously the jewelry is selling under their name.
Right.
And people like that. They like the story. So if people are going to go back to story, that will still work. Will a multi-brand jewelry store work or not? Personally, I'm not the person to ask. I think the multi-brand works at a slightly lower level or little more mass. So it'll work in perfume, it'll work in clothes, but still for the really top end bridal, they'd rather go to the original boutique.
Okay.
Even in clothes.
In fact, I know quite a few retailers who jewelry ke saath apparels bhi rakhna chahte hain, you know, because that seems to be the new trend, because then it gives a complete look to the store. And
yeah, and normally people who are wearing the jewelry need a certain kind of clothes. But again, it'll work better agar wo retailers ke paas, they have somebody who's buying with an eye. कि इसके साथ ये जा सकते हैं, इसके साथ ये जा सकते हैं. Not कि ये कपड़े और ये jewelry है, तो उसका मतलब नहीं है. Then they can go to the next shop. अब क्या वो सर्विस क्या देंगे कि किसी ने आपके लिए ये चुनाव किया है, and it's styled beautifully, that you're doing looks, then you're taking the role of a stylist, which the jeweler might not be able to, but they have to hire that service. Correct. And that's what gives it value. Otherwise, what? You're just putting merchandise. You have to.
Hi, Tarun. Hello. Oops.
Cut gaya.
Looks Tarun has some issue.
Yeah, I think cut gaya hai kya beech mein?
No. Still his screen is showing, but there might be some network issue with him.
नहीं स्क्रीन भी चला गया मेरे यहाँ तो स्क्रीन
आ जाएगा वापस
वो आ जाएंगे मेरे ख्याल से he will come back.
Okay. Are there any questions from the audience which you think we need to look into?
We still have time for questions.
बहुत time है. I'm making a note. 1 or 2 questions.
अच्छा हाँ ठीक है हाँ because मेरे पास अभी काफी सारे सवाल हैं.
We still have half an hour.
Yeah. No, so मेरे पास काफी हैं मतलब I just want to make sure कि at least मैं फोन लगाता हूँ.
हाँ please better.
Yeah, I'll just follow. Hello. No, but we can't neither see you or we can't even hear you. Yeah, just reconnect, no, please. Okay, thanks. He went out of battery, so he's just reconnecting again.
Okay.
Is that working now?
Yeah. Welcome back.
Apologies. My apologies.
Not a problem at all.
Right.
So we were talking about the fact that, if someone curates a collection and does it beautifully, then I think the person who comes to buy from that jeweler, see in India, people also buy from jewelers because they have a personal connection. Right? There's a lot of trust. But obviously, brands like Tanishq have broken that.
Right.
Because they're selling, in a different kind of trust because of the brand, a mother brand. But they're also not going to jewels which are cross, like, other jeweler might go to. So they go up to a certain point. So if it's beautifully curated and it's styled and it's sold as such, I don't think people will have a problem. However, today young girls, everyone's on technology. Technology is also confusing people because you can't tell the quality on technology of it. And people see so much that they get confused. Then they want to go everywhere. Then they get more confused. And I've seen it often with young girls. They don't wear these clothes, so they're even more confused. But they don't want their mother to decide. It's just chaos. Before 20 years back, mothers used to decide. Right. Before that, grandmothers used to decide. It was around the jewelry. And these were people who had bought Indian clothes for life. Today, the girls come in shorts. They're buying a lehenga. But the mother is saying, wear this jewelry. Someone else saying, wear this. They're very confused. They really have a bad time. So if a store became, through having a great buyer, who combine the jewelry and the thing, I think it would be fantastic. It's wonderful for NRIs. It's wonderful for, Arabs who come to India, and a lot of Indians would be happy with the service, because today people don't have the confidence. There's too much choice what to put with each other.
Tarun, we want to understand कि ये होगा कैसे, because काफी सारे designers भी jewelers के साथ टाइप करना चाहते हैं, jewelers भी designers के साथ टाइप करना चाहते हैं, but ये आगे बात निकलती नहीं है, मतलब होती नहीं है. So how do we actually come together? Any suggestions? Anything that?
Well, I think now that you mention it, I think a good thing would be for me to talk to the Fashion Design Council of India, okay, the FDC. I'm making a note right now, and tell them that, listen, if we can coordinate with a top body, and then organize a one-day meet and greet where everybody comes together, right?
Yes.
Maybe designers put up images or some images of their stuff. Jewelers bring some kind of thing, like you would do at a trade fair abroad. Purely, it's not for transaction. It's to bring designers and jewelry brands or jewelry manufacturers, whatever you want to call it, into the room and say who would work together, who could work together.
Arrange marriages.
At least to start a discussion. Huh?
Right. In fact, we'll be more than happy if we can, do that with the FDCI, and, we have large associations like GJC and, GJPC. So we can actually collaborate together and do this, because I think that's a great opportunity for both these.
So I come once a year. I came because I've been working with different people on and off. I saw that jewelry fair which you have in Goregaon.
Yes.
It can only be called mind-boggling, the length and breadth of material, right?
Yes.
But also, jewelers will have to be a little patient when they work with designers, because I think everyone thinks the designer market's much bigger than it is, but it is a growing market, and one has to have a strategy and present things together cohesively. So I think the first thing is for people to meet each other and talk and see, because, yes, if you have nice jewelry, let's say the designers work on the jewelry a bit with the jeweler, so it's not just random, not putting just random pieces.
Right.
Frankly, if you put jewelry in the designer stores, if they're beautiful stores, and it's well marketed with professionals standing behind the counter who understand, who can tell them about the weight, about the stones, in some cases, the gold is hallmark, all the things that people look for to feel safe.
Right.
There's no reason why they won't buy. They will buy. They will buy it from here. Because people are tired of running around. And now with all this social distancing and all, people are going to be more concerned about just roaming around. That roaming around is going to stop. They're going to go to a fewer places. They're going to go where protocols are, fixed. Marketing is a very important part of it. Social media is a very important part of it. Telling the story constantly.
Right.
And connecting authentically, This really now, we've re-entered the age where it has to be authentic.
Right.
So,
but Tarun, I'll be actually chasing you for this, because it's a brilliant idea to get to work with the FDCI, and
I'm very happy to organize it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, everyone's scared. Everybody will be very receptive to exploring new ideas and initiatives. What is this? It's an initiative. No one's being forced to do anything.
Yeah.
To connect two people. So maybe 6 or 12 or 15 designers work with different jewelers, and something new is created. Because it is the way forward, it is the way forward.
It is the way forward.
Frankly, I'll tell you, with Western clothes, people are wearing less and less jewelry. Maybe a nice pair of earrings. They'll wear this young jeweler, Hanuj saying beautiful things, modern, contemporary.
Right.
Where are Indians really wearing all their fine jewelry? With Indian clothing, around the wedding, around the big Indian celebration. Now, even if you go to a destination, a 50th birthday party, whatever, not much jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
It's all more Western.
Right.
But around the wedding and is where the most beautiful jewels are being worn. Oh, of course, they'll buy their solitaires and their big rings and that sort of thing. So for that, you don't really need to collaborate with designers. You need more for the big designs and things that will work with the bridal and the other clothing. If you're selling a beautiful solitaire stone, you don't need to be with the designer. You should do that on your own. The classic Harry Winston design or whatever you call it.
Right.
So.
We have always
I'll put you all on the mail with the FDCI, and as soon as this lockdown ends, and let 2-3 weeks go, because people will take time to settle it.
Sure.
And we can certainly arrange a meeting, and we can have 1 or 2 Zoom meetings before with whoever you want, and Mr. Sethi and 2-3 members of the board, to make it worthwhile and then go forward. Yeah, it's a very
brilliant.
That's
Yeah.
a
In fact,
very,
next you are in
very,
Mumbai, post the lockdown. I would love to meet, and maybe we all meet together with the
No,
association as well.
absolutely. I'm sure most of you are based in Bombay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I come, but most of the designers are in Delhi, but they're in both cities. So like I think Manish Malhotra has tied up with somebody called Raniwala,
Right.
and just so like that, there's a lot of opportunity.
Okay. Okay. Super. Coming to the branding and marketing. Now, one of the key things that we have always seen is a lot of fashion designers come into jewelry designing, but I haven't seen jewelry designing getting into fashion designing.
Well, I tell you, fashion design is much more difficult than jewelry design. Let me tell you,
Okay.
it's a whole different skill. You can't rely on one thing. And
Right.
jewelry, the values are much higher.
Sure.
And I think, like I said, contrary to what you all think,
Right.
all people doing jewelry are doing much bigger businesses. It's not doesn't have the hype of fashion.
Right.
So there's no reason why you all should get into fashion.
Okay.
Once you're a jeweler, you don't want to see that things that sell for less than a certain amount. But in fashion, the irony is,
very,
they say,
very nicely stop the competition from the jewelry side in fashion.
They say collaborate. You know what they say on 7th Avenue, sell to the masses, eat with the classes. The problem is that all the Indian fashion designers are only selling to the classes. But you all sell up and down from the one thing to the up. So, and I know how much you all export. So it's a different market.
Right.
But
Again, Tarun,
it is also true. It is also true, to interrupt for 1 second, that over the last few years, just as a lay person, I'm seeing less and less jewelry worn. Even at weddings, I'm seeing either they're wearing that big bib or they're wearing more delicate, refined things. So there's two tastes. Maybe in North India, they wear these big things. But in general, I'm seeing less and less jewelry. It's about clothes. It's about bag. They will spend $1.5 lakh on a pair of shoes, which I don't understand. When you can get a nice pair of earrings. But that's what's in fashion right now. It's a different world.
Okay. Okay. But, again, when it comes to marketing, I think, again, fashion industry is way ahead of jewelry industry. For example, even the designers, there are so many different labels of the fashion designing and designers which have gone global, not only just gone global, but there are really big names. Whereas in jewelry, you hardly find any, there are a handful of them. Why again? And what's your suggestion for the jewelry industry?
Well, I think that, so fashion is a much, much more visual thing, And if I even if I take a pulkari and make a coat and put it with a pair of shorts and cool shoes, that image can go global. But there's very little. You see, a lot of the Indian jewelry, much as it's beautiful, they're not interested in it in the West. It's too big. It's too much for them, right? It's not their taste. Okay. They wear more fine stones or sophisticated colors. The Italians, the French, the Americans, they'll wear one piece. Their style of wearing jewelry is totally different. They will wear much better stones. They won't compromise on the stones, that quality. I mean, I've seen with the top American socialites that it's flawless what they wear. So it's different. And how do you put it? So I remember many years back, I think maybe, I don't remember who, one of the brands, maybe it's Rashmi Mehta, and they brought this jewelry show to Delhi, and they'd got these Harvey Leger dresses because they're simple, tight dresses, and the models wore them and walked up and down with very nice diamond necklaces.
Right.
That same show, if it was done with cheaper Indian clothes and costume, jewelry is hard to have that impact from a visual marketing,
Right.
You can do it through advertising. You can do it through, like even with Chanel. Why do people know Chanel jewelry? Because they mix it on the clothes. The pearl chains, they're always telling the story. They're selling a strand of costume pearls, Swarovski pearls, for $1,500. It's the power of that brand. You can get real pearls for that price. We discussed this also.
Yeah.
That people want that double C. Why do you think so many Italian brands, why do you think today like Todd or Louis, these are all people doing shoes. Why have they all started doing fashion shows? Even Louis Vuitton was just bags. Then they understood, how do we get the bags onto a global view? They started doing the fashion show. They don't care about the clothes. But every model comes with that bag. And that image goes global. So when you're just doing jewelry, it's very hard to take an image that goes up because you can shoot beautiful images and you can advertise, which is what most jewelers do.
Right.
it doesn't, if you see the red carpet where everyone's lending jewelry and all, they'll ask, but we only remember the dresses because the dress is big and dramatic and, it's just the reality. And I think that also today, for special occasions, people, because they're selling to the rich, they want more and more special and beautiful things. That's why the top jewelers continue to sell,
Right.
And I think somehow to brand a point of view, a design, like Lala Yunus, we still remember the gold from Greece, or like I gave the example of Viren. So I think there needs to be the creation of identity. I feel with a lot of Indian jewelers, they do beautiful things, but you can't tell one from another. That's hard to create that identity then.
Okay. Yeah, because, I'm sure you specialize in more on the bridal segment, and there is enough competition out there. So what is that? How do you keep it distinct, and how do you keep that differentiation factor alive?
Well, I want to tell you that even here it's becoming difficult because there's so many layers of copying and it's becoming very blurred because there's so much. I think you have to do it in an overall aesthetic. We are now beginning to brand in different ways. So we're getting Swarovski to do special crystals with the T etched. So even if a sari blouse, it'll hang. So it's not in your face, but you'll be able to see it.
Right.
It's a code that you can read. So little subtle things like that we're doing. And we have a certain fit and drape. Somebody like Manish Malhotra might have his own look. Rohit Bal has their own look. And we're all in their own, doing our own thing. So I think over years that identity has evolved. I think it's also possible with jewelry, but then these brands have to have that designer who drives that.
Sure.
Everyone, you might be a wonderful manufacturing company, but like all the design houses abroad, you might need to hire that designer to be the star and take it through. I remember having dinner at, Yves Carcel's house in Paris. He was the president of Louis Vuitton at that time. And they were just launching their fine jewelry collection. And that jeweler was sitting there at dinner and they were doing all these things with these stars, some kind of thing that looked like the galaxies. But it's not my taste at all. But they hire a designer to come on, like Chanel had, Karl Lagerfeld, or Fendi had Lagerfeld. All the big houses abroad have proper hired fantastic designers. You need a designer. Otherwise, it becomes a mishmash of copying this and copying that. It doesn't work. That identity is very important. Prasad, it's the most important thing. Otherwise, it's a commodity. If I could go to 3 stores and find the same Jarrah necklace that's based on the Nizam, that typical thing with the drops, one will say 15 lakhs, one will say 80 lakhs. I can't tell the difference. One will say 2 crores, Emerald's Colombian. Who knows?
True. Coming from the, inventory management perspective, now, what sort of turns does a fashion industry normally has?
What sort of what? Sorry, I didn't understand.
Stock turns, the number of times.
Well, so that's the one thing I'm envious of you jewelers, that the gold and stones always the price holds. Worst comes to you can melt it and redo it. But in fashion, there's a lot of obsolescence. Someone might try something, lipstick gets on it, you can't sell it.
Yeah.
People are aware what's new fashion. So now we've had this lockdown, right, for March and April.
Right.
Because by March, people had stopped coming to the stores because everything was getting cancelled. We understood by the 10th or 15th, there's some gadbad because all the NRIs had cancelled, all the weddings we had booked clothes for, they kept, they messaged and said, please put it on hold, we'll take it later, or can we take a refund and get something else? So now the stores have hung, the clothes have hung in that store for March and April.
Right.
A lot of them are white and cream.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much I have to get rid of it. I mean, I have these clothes I have to sell by June because there's the next fresh lot coming in, right? Clothes is a little different. With jewelry, I can send it back to be polished. I can't send whites back. They have to go when they're new and they're current in people's head. So we will probably do some kind of promotion because we also try to help all the craftsmen. So give a percentage and do a bit of a sale so we can keep all the workshops running because what's happened now is unprecedented. But I imagine if you're a jeweler, even if you sold nothing, there's an intrinsic value to what your metals and stones have. I mean, you might have made a lot in making, and I know some of the making is extremely expensive. I've seen some exquisite workmanship, and now the jewelers bring the backs of necklaces and all. But you know, if it's a beautiful piece, there's always a mark. Someone will come in for it when it picks up.
Sure.
Different. We work more in numbers. You all may work in more special pieces. But like everybody, like Van Cleef and Arpels, they have the globally. I can't tell you how many women I see wearing it on a gold chain now. So I think all jewelers need to have, unless you're at that Viren Bhagat level, where even I think he's doing it, where you have your principal, your marquee, the most exquisite pieces that defines you. But then even Cartier will do little bags, and that's what they'll sell. Or they'll do simple watches, you know. You can buy it in silver, you can buy it in gold, you can buy it in rose gold, you can put it with diamonds. That's what then people buy. That's the aspirational. They're buying the quality, but they're not paying, you know, $500 million, and they feel good about it. People always like that. That will always do well. So that Chanel bag, you can get a quilted bag for $200, but many women will spend $2,500 to get the quilted bag with the double C, because they also feel it's an investment in quality, and people like to buy things that make themselves feel special. No one feels special when you buy a copy. You know it's a copy.
Sure.
Right? You're shortchanging yourself. Chalo, okay, you know, I'm buying, so that's a tacky nouveau mentality. If you're someone who values yourself and quality, then you'll buy less and you'll buy, you know, as Minal Modi says to me, I don't need a logo. When I put my hand in, I know whether it's quality or not. That's the real quality buyer. I'll tell some the jewelry is all poking. They said, no, it doesn't matter. Fabulous design. I said, no. For a woman, what it feels like on her skin, that's equally important.
Yep. In fact, you know, I mean, that's another big difference between fashion and jewelry is commanding a premium on a brand or commanding a premium on the price. So how is the pricing done? Is it cost plus? Is it value minus? And how do you maintain the MRP? Because हमारी industry में MRP चलता ही नहीं है. So ये कैसे मतलब possible है? क्या आप suggestion देंगे?
But I've never understood why that's so in jewelry. Either they don't have a price tag, or they have something in some code which they have to read and calculate. I don't know if it's for the income tax or the GST. I've never understood. But obviously, there's some chakkar.
It's also because the consumer...
If you go to Tanishq, it's a straightforward price. Also because gold prices vary, so you'll have to calculate it on that.
Correct.
I understand that.
Yes. And also saying, the breakup, because consumers हमारे से हमेशा breakup मांगते हैं, इसमें gold कितना है.
So you see, it's much more difficult. It's much more difficult to get that premium pricing when you're breaking down the ingredients, right? If you go to a restaurant, if you go to a fancy restaurant at the Leela, and they say this is 10,000 rupees, you ask them for the ingredients, what are they going to say? It might be 1,000 rupees to make that pizza, right? It doesn't work like that. So again, to go back to that kind of premium pricing, at whatever level, you've got to offer something unique. Because if 10 people have it down the road, it's a commodity, Prasad. It's not the same. Or then, I was at Tanishq and I was looking at the diamond bangles, which are beautifully made, and they also do cluster diamonds. You put 4 diamonds together, so it looks like one. You know, that's whatever they call that technique. And they were beautifully made. And I was shocked at how well priced they were. They were like 9 lakhs. And I was like, wow. Because half the time I asked these women, they're like, ye to 1 crore ke liye, whatever. But this looked really, they were beautifully made, and they were they were extremely well priced. So then it didn't matter. It wasn't commoditized. It was fair. So in your perception game, people either have to see it as very fair, or they have to see it as... So we did a big web seminar 2 days back with Singapore, with this brand company that sells us. And one of the comments that I liked very much from this woman was that it's right, when you buy Tarun, it's like buying an investment, because I will wear the pieces 20 years from now. They don't go out of fashion, and the quality is such. So she will pay what is a premium, because she knows she's not going to wear it for 1 season and throw it like if it was Zara. So these are things that you earn with customers, you know. It's a perception game. PR helps you, but customers are getting smarter and smarter because there's so much information. Of course, celebrity endorsements helps, but I don't think it sustains in the long run. Finally, the engagement of your product has to sustain and make somebody love it. I don't care who's wearing Prada shoes, but if I put on Prada shoes, it feels so good. I don't give a damn who's wearing it.
That's right.
So, you know, I'll go back to them. So in that same way, well, till I saw the body bag video, I don't know if you've seen that 2 days back. I may not after that. So that's the danger with social media. Too much information. Yes. And suddenly like, wait, maybe they didn't think about it unless that's a spoof. So I think these are all important things.
That's
And
true.
I think now engagement is very important. So when you launch new things, stop and tell the story. You know, they have that Vogue wedding show where a lot of jewelers come because
Right.
people come then. I don't know what will happen this year. And somebody like Raj Mehtani comes, Satram Dalama from Calcutta. And he
Yeah.
has very big, beautiful, it's unique and bobbly. And he sits there and he engages with people and he does very well. But there are many jewels in the show, but his jewelry has a look,
Right.
a fingerprint that comes out of his hand.
Right.
And that's what people come back for. So
Okay.
my biggest advice to all the big manufacturers, you might be doing this as a commodity, as a great export business. You might be cutting millions of stones, but to establish that brand,
Right.
over time you got to develop a fingerprint that becomes the brand's DNA and builds on it. Not that it will be the same, it will
Got it.
change, but like you can tell a Bulgari, you could tell a Van Cleef, that sort of thing. You must
Right.
be able to develop, and we all have some good collections. We have some bad collections, some hits, some that's
Sure.
part of the course.
So coming to collaboration between the fashion world and the jewelry world. Now, if there is a collaboration that we want to have with the designer, now what exactly would designer be looking for this kind of a collaboration from his perspective? What sort of qualities are they going to look for with the retailer?
Well, the thing is, it will depend from designer to designer. So a designer who's more funky might
Sure.
want something little more funky, and therefore might work with a lower grade stone. I think the one area where designers will have problem, where you all don't need the designers, if I might say so, is diamonds. Because in diamonds, people tend to wear more classic designs. And a lot of people will tell me openly, Are, who's the big thing? The big Middle Eastern jewel, the one they do the bibs of diamonds. The name is escaping me right now.
Mawad.
Huh?
Mawad.
No. Mawad does all the beautiful stones. One of those other brands, they advertise a lot
Okay.
in the Wall Street Journal and all. It'll come to me.
That's
So, it's not even Jar. Some one of these days, they just do a lot of square and diamond and big bibs. So a lot of people just say we're wearing that design. So they take the book and they get it made, and there are wonderful jewelers and site holders in Bombay who will make it beautifully. So
Yeah.
for that, you don't need any designer. They're the designers. Then a lot of diamond jewelry worn here is replicated designs from the top jewelers abroad, from what I've seen.
Okay.
So what you needed is in a mix of stones and colors and jarao and enamel and novelty stones and pearls, multicolored things that's so Indian and contemporary versions that goes with Indian clothes but can also be worn with a black dress or whatever, I think that sort of thing. Or more rose cuts and the duller things, but big. There's no point with designers being tiny, tiny little things. Again, you won't have that impact that you can sell on your own. You understand?
Okay. One very interesting, a question which one of the retailers had asked was about, you have done many collaborations with jewelry companies, especially with Swarovski. You have been working quite closely, and with many other jewelry industries. So normally, what are the commercial terms that one needs to discuss while getting into this?
Well, the thing is, we've done many things in different ways, and we were going to have a very big collaboration, but now everything's been pushed back right now because of what's happened. Everyone wants to see what's happening with the markets. I think one really has to do this based on a projection. I mean, you and I did one thing, but the problem is because it was silver, putting it in the real jewelry stores,
Correct.
It was competing with the real jewelry. And my sister still has some of those necklaces. She could be wearing them at different weddings.
Sure.
In fact, I have one on the phone. I would have flashed it, and people come back, where is that? I say, my God, when it was in the stores, So I think people want precious and, not to get into costume. It should be precious, semi-precious and precious. I think it should be things that are a bit scalable. So you should be able to make copies of it, because that's fine. No one's going to come to the designer for that one-of-a-kind piece. They should be dramatic and bold, because people want that from designers. And that's when you go into the bridal week and the couture week, and the jewelry gets shown. It's shown as a look. People will buy a look more and more. A customer will ring from LA and she'll say, I want the necklace with the lehenga. That's how we have to sell more and more, right? It's
Sure.
part of an entire look.
Okay.
There will also be people who come in to buy it individually. And so it depends. I know that with real gold and diamonds, the margins are much lower because the spread is much lower. We know that.
Yeah.
But the idea is to develop a look, even if it takes a year, don't rush into it, and develop some kind of an interesting identity so people can see it and identify.
Okay.
That's the key. I'm
Okay.
telling you, that's the key. Others are a commodity.
That's true.
You know, and then you can mix it with normal jewelry, and then you like you with all pricing and merchandising, the things that are more special or are difficult to replicate or you can't do more of, they can command more premium.
Now,
But
coming
I'd say
to, you
that-
know, sorry.
So I'd say that I'm not talking about diamonds because I know diamonds does not have that.
Yeah.
But with Jarrao and stuff, you know, and Kundan, I'd say most designers would work on, I'd say 10 to 15%, you know, net, and, you know, we collaborate with a lot of time. But they have to give design and overseeing or make the prototypes. It's not, you know, just to take jewelry from someone and put it there. It's
Right.
not going to work.
Okay. Just, you know, post-COVID now, coming to that, is how, you know, a lot of research companies have shown that the biggest hit is going to be the luxury industry, which includes fashion industry as well as the jewelry industry. So what changes do you see are likely to happen?
So let's take ourselves in India. Okay, first of all, there'll be no NRIs who come in for 6 months. I mean, because Europe's closing their borders.
Right.
I don't think for a long time people are going to fly from America because America is the epicenter and people are very nervous. It's spread on planes and you're in a trapped environment. And there's too much information. It goes to if you sneeze, it can go through the air conditioning, all that. Everyone's nervous. So there's a global, I don't even think it's a recession. I think it's a depression. I think we're going to be very unpleasantly surprised in 2 weeks. And I don't think even our governments really understand the ramifications of such a long lockdown and how to restart it. I mean, clearly no one does.
Right.
But the other thing is that our clothes and our jewelry is worn on special occasions. And if
Sorry, I can't hear you.
The sound.
Yeah.
The sound has been muted.
Yeah, somebody has muted it.
Only he can mute it.
Okay. Tarun, we can't hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been muted.
Yeah,
okay.
Tarun.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah.
So basically what the problem is that, you know, people will still buy small things or solitaires and birthdays, whatever, anniversaries. But for the wedding, which is what fueled the whole thing for big jewelry and for really high fashion, that's going to be very pared down. It probably won't be allowed, or it'll be 20 people, but they'll still buy nice things, but there won't be the 10 parties and the 10 events, both because of the economic condition and because, frankly, no one wants to risk it. You know, now that they've seen what happens. Actually, this is all highly exaggerated compared to, you know, what really happens. But now it's people have got the fear psychosis.
Sure.
So people will buy less, but they'll buy better. I think they'll buy more quality. They'll buy less. We have to all brace down for a contraction. We have to be realistic. There's no way, you know, we've lost already 2 months. So brace, be prepared, you know, cut your expenses so you can, you know, and then it'll pick up. And then when it picks up, there'll be fewer people left. I think
But
so.
do you think people will start buying much lesser and affordable range than the higher end?
I think that the people who have money are going to buy what they always bought, but they're not going to buy for 5 functions. They're going to buy for 1 or 2. They'll have one small dinner. They'll have one. I mean, if my son gets married, it'll have to be the 2 immediate families, and you know, we can't do anything till it's over.
That's right. Okay.
I mean, we're not going to. I don't want the thing that someone came here and then they look at the tracking they're doing, which is a very good thing. Then there was some waiter from the catering company and someone got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Please get married, and when this is done and done, we'll have 2 big rocking things.
True.
I think we have to be practical. We also have to be responsible. Huh?
Sure.
I mean, look at the thing that took place day before Devi Gara's son or whatever. National news day and night. We'll all be victims. It's not the thing to do. It's too contagious. So we have to hang in there. We have to ride it. Look, we've survived. The world has survived many things. Prasad, this is one more blimp. And, the vaccine, the moment that vaccine is out, everybody's going to be out rocking. But we have serious problems in this country. We have to ride it through, and a lot of people are going to get burnt and sink in fashion too.
Right.
I don't know about jewelry. With jewelry, I keep saying, as long as you don't have debt, your intrinsic value stays.
Yeah,
If I
that's
don't
a big
sell those
advantage.
clothes in 6 months, they're worth nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we just got about 10 minutes left, so let's throw it open to the audience. So, Ashok Bhai, can you take over?
Yes, I can say one thing, Tarun. You have an extremely positive mind, and you are with your experience and your knowledge about things, about life in itself. The way you have put up things is phenomenal. Absolutely,
Thank
we have
you so
really
much.
enjoyed every single word you have spoken.
We live to learn every day. I mean, that's the fun of our lives, you know.
And we were a little clueless about how this whole session would go, but we never expected to go so well. And
And I'm going to follow up. It's my word to you. I'm going to write a long email to the FDCI. I'll put it on him, and he will send it to all of you. And let's get that dialogue going. Let's see what happens.
yeah, sure.
Maybe
Firstly, I think a collaboration is good for both the industries together. There is a great future ahead for all of us. We know we are going through a slow period, and we are going to go again for a little longer time, for a slower time. But life doesn't end here.
No.
There is always light at the end of the tunnel, and let's look at it in a positive manner.
And use this time to rethink what we're doing, why we're doing it. I'm really using this time. I don't like a lot of things we're doing. We're changing our whole thing, and we're changing our commitment to craft. So everyone has to do some soul searching at this time. We've been given the time to do it. Use it.
Avinashji, any questions that people have asked on the chat?
There are three questions which are, Tarun, there are 2-3 questions which are important for the gem and jewelry industry. As there is a common trend in fashion to change trend every 3 months or 6 months, do you feel there is an opportunity for the gem and jewelry industry to change trends at least a year?
You know, I think the gem and jewelry industry, from my limited understanding, this change every 3 months happens in fast fashion. And it's not really the style of Indians to change so much. We value things of heritage, you know. I think with jewelry, if it changed so fast, the trend, then people would buy less and less quality. I think there's a better business to be had, at least at the luxury level, for selling finer things, beautifully made with better stones. Because if you get into that cheaper stuff, it will just become cheaper, and it'll become a commodity again, you know. So I think fashion is one thing, and fine jewelry is something else, which can use fashion, but never confuse it with fashion. It's not to have that life cycle. When I buy something expensive and beautiful, I should say my granddaughter will have it. I don't say that with anything in clothes.
Great.
There's a big difference.
Great. One more question. When we talk about fashion going with jewelry, people in metros, especially Delhi, Bombay, or any big metro, people will connect very fast. Do you think that goes in tier 2 and tier 3 cities also?
Well, I think tier 2 and tier 3 cities are looking at tier 1 and tier 2. It's aspirational. Also, they used to be like tier 1 and tier 2. And now social media, so you know how television made us homogenous. Wherever you go in America, they all speak the same way because of TV. Now you see it in India. You go to South India, because of TV, social media is making us more and more homogenous. And basically, the reason why I think with designers, so when we sketch, I'm holding up a sketcher that happened to be here. This is a thing of a piece of jewelry that will sit on this thing. Now I can do it in embroidery, but I can also have a real piece that will sit like that and sell it to a special client. So there's a big synergy already in the way we're drawing it, you know.
Great.
And because we have to shoot the clothes, if we are designing the jewelry and the whole look, then when we shoot it, we shoot something unique instead of me borrowing jewelry at the last minute from somebody. And that becomes the self-perpetuating marketing cycle.
Great insight. One Mr. Chandra Surana is there from Huramal Rajmal Surana. He wants to ask a question. Chandrabhai, you can ask the question.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you so much, Tarun. Amazing.
My pleasure.
amazing talk. I just wanted to get insight from you that if you have made your signature or fingerprint, as you said, and when you find everybody following the similar kind of thing, how do you move? Because in jewelry, we don't change our things so fast. So what is your suggestion and guidance to keep it continuous, where you don't leave what you have been doing and you don't want other people to get following it too much?
So you'll keep evolving it. You'll change motifs. You can change colors. I'm talking about clothes. The collection that did very well last year for us was called Khashida. It's very fine colors, hand painted, and then we work in Ari work. So if I again swivel the phone, up on that wall are all the new paintings. I don't know if you can see them. And those will go to the new Khashida collection. So, a lot of us, sorry, I've lost this damn thing, sorry.
We can hear you, but we can hear you.
Okay, fine. Anyway, so a lot of us have come into, what drives us is we want to go to work and create the new thing. What we're missing is the desire to make that bigger business. So it's a combination of two things. If you're the business person, get your designer to do it. Designers come to work to create the new thing, and it's slowly by evolution. So if everyone's copying this, move to the next thing, because then you're also giving your old customer, who's your biggest base, a chance to buy something new. Others, they'll say, I've seen this. So you have to keep moving. Innovation is important. It's absolutely the thing. You keep your classics. We still have lehengas from 5 years back that we call the classics. And they're for people who are coming new, who've not seen it, who've not worn it. They might go for that. But I can't tell somebody from the Ambanis or this or that who are up to date everything. They'll say this is sold. We want to only see what's new. So there are different things in your collection for different people. It's fine. You keep the classics, but you keep inventing.
No, fabulous for showing your heart. You showed your wall. Just simply like your heart and your creation. And thank you, DJC, for this amazing initiatives taken.
I hope we meet sometime. Take care.
Take care. Next.
Tarun, one more question, which is really difficult for me actually to pose to you. What level of confidence do you find in customers coming to designer boutiques when they buy jewelry from a fashion designer? What level of confidence? Yeah.
So it all depends on the person standing behind the counter. So very often, sometimes, let me give you an example that we were doing families, very beautiful clothes. And I think that jewelry was coming from Raniwala. Okay, we didn't have jewelry of this size. So this man arrived with a suitcase, and as we held the clothes up, they pulled out thing, and they wanted to take my advice. What should they buy? And these were big sets. So as long as they could speak to the person at the desk or the owner to be reassured of the quality, they were fine. There was no problem. So much depends on the person who's explaining it to you and say, listen, when you sell big jewelry to people, right? If you tell me it's 30 carats, this, that, whatever, you can't always go in very high fashion jewelry or, high quality jewelry. It can't go by the breakup of pure weight. There's something for the design or the rarity of the stones. If you say this is 60,000 a carat, who am I to argue whether it's 60 or 40,000? There's no way I know. So I have to love the design, but I have to feel that this person is selling something authentic to me. They also have an idea what prices should be because they're all in the market. And also, some jewelers will say that, listen, don't worry, if you change your mind, there's a 10 or 15% buyback guarantee up to 2 years. So people feel reassured, it's okay.
So do you think
you have to connect. So let's say if I'm selling your jewelry, I have my collaboration with you. And I'll say, look, here's, Mr. Gupta, and he's the jeweler. And so his man is standing here who knows all the technical thing we are pressing. Most of the time when you go to stores, it's not like the owner sitting there, unless it's a single store piece, Then it's different. They're sitting there and selling. And that is very effective. But that's not how you build a big business in multiple locations. That's one model.
So with your thing, that means people look for a buyback guarantee when they come to the designers also?
No, they don't. Different jewelers have different means. So in the beginning, sometimes they'll do that. for the first 15, 20, just to create that confidence, you know, because everyone talks, right? No one's ever come back to Barbi's fan. Also, if they're coming into a store, when you walk into a store, if you feel the store, the overall, let's say the philosophy, the, you know, the value system that the people in that store are imparting, the designer, if that's honest, then you expect honest, you know, you expect that even the jewelry will be looked at in the same thing. If there's an assurance of some kind. There was a very, you know, a very smart lady, and, you know, husband runs a very big company, won't take names. And for 10 years, she bought very beautiful jewels from this one guy, just her jarao. Everything was paid for by check, and she was going abroad. She sent 2 necklaces to be insured, and all the diamonds turned out to be paste, right? This is someone she had bought with over years, and super high-end budgets, fabulous. So she had him thrown into jail. So that makes people nervous. You understand? Even having that relationship, how do you give people that assurance? So, you know, if we sit with a certain jeweler who is saying this, no one asks XY jewelers how many tola, what is the size of diamonds. It's all cut and shaped. They're in love with the design. You know, even when I sell something, if I might be selling a lehenga for 14 lakhs, it's not that my assistants are selling it, but they have to know, like once a woman came and she said that, you know, I find the color a bit off. This feels like there's some black in the red and we're superstitious. Show me the swatch. We got the swatch. And I said, you know what? I just told them, applique the work. Let her not go unhappy. It's not a big deal. It'll cost me another 80,000. I'll reuse the embroidery. You must leave people feeling happy. After that, for years, she sent people to me. So that's also how you build it, you know, and with you jewelers more so.
Great. Bachraj, do you have any question to ask?
I think Varuna has.
I'm just
अविनाश जी एक मिनट के मेरे पास में काफी क्वेश्चंस थे लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि जितने क्वेश्चंस है मैं खोलूंगा तो मुझे तरुण जी का 1-2 सेशन और लेना पड़ेगा.
We'll do that another day.
we will do another day. बस नथिंग काफी कुछ है जो कुछ का मैं ये क्वेश्चन पूछने से पहले ही कुछ आंसर शॉर्ट में मिल गया है लेकिन डिटेल में बात करना चाहते थे तो मे बी नॉट टुडे बिकॉज वी आर ऑलरेडी रनिंग आउट ऑफ टाइम so
yes.
some other day we will connect again and
any day going to meet you Bachraj ji.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much.
I'll send her that email today or tomorrow by the latest, okay?
नहीं आपका पॉजिटिवनेस जो आपको लगा कि ज्वेलर और फैशन डिजाइनर के साथ में हम मिल करके कुछ काम कर सकते हैं ये वेरी पॉजिटिव आउटकम है आज का and I am very optimistic about it.
क्योंकि I don't know who I'm speaking to, but remember when people are buying beautiful clothes for weddings, they don't want costume jewelry. They want the whole thing, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, we're selling belts to put over the veil for 45,000. It's made in Swarovski. Why not do real beautiful things? So there's a big market. But the thing is now everyone has to understand the needs and create for that.
Correct.
Varuna,
so we
Varuna
should meet
wants
again.
to ask a question.
I have to write another thing. It was lovely talking to you. And we shall meet soon. And I'll try and send out this letter tomorrow.
Sure.
Right. Perfect.
I think
I'll wait for it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, there's one more question coming in.
Okay.
Varuna wants to ask a question, I think.
Varuna, yeah. Go on. Go ahead.
Varuna, I have already unmuted you.
I think we have lost her.
Okay. Then Ashok bhai, over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, we have Sumit who's going to do the vote of thanks. If you can, Sumit.
Sumit bhai.
Sure, sir, with pleasure. So, Mr. Tarun Tahiliani, it was wonderful listening to you. You are a wonderful man. And the day was very, very, very positive for us. And knowing a person like you who's so easy and who's so practical, and you have shared amazing things to us. And ऐसा लग रहा था कि आप बोलते जाओ और हम आपके साथ बस ये सुनते जाएं और आपसे सीखते जाएं. बहुत
आप भी मुझे कुछ सिखाएंगे.
बहुत अच्छा लगा और जिस सादगी के साथ आपने हम सबको समझाया है, we are very grateful to you, sir. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we wish कि आप again and again हमारी इंडस्ट्री के साथ जुड़े, Mindspeak के साथ और अच्छी चीजें शेयर करें. मतलब I know कि आपके पास बहुत बड़ा ट्रेजर है हमको सबको सिखाने के लिए. मुझे तो ऐसा लग रहा था कि a mentor like you and आप शायद 2-3 ज्वेलर्स को अपने साथ अगर एक दिन बिताने का मौका कभी दें तो हमारा तो मतलब we can do a lot of things in our lives.
Whenever you come to Delhi, standing invitation.
Thank
So
you.
don't worry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
for the
Thank
generosity,
you.
Tarun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
you.
Vipul.
Thank you, Tarun.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
For all of us, we have tomorrow a wonderful session coming in, Gold, the Changing Scenario. Do join us all at 2 p.m. sharp.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Prasad.
Thank you, Prasad.
Thank you, Prasad, for a
Thank you.
wonderful session. You did
I was.
so much.
you were on the
Great.
dot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Loved it. Great. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks
Bye.
a lot. Thanks a lot. See you guys.